Hello, everyone. Well, it's great to see everyone, lots of familiar names. My name is Megan Lindell. I work for the University of Cincinnati here in our International Admissions Office in Cincinnati, Ohio. And first, we want to welcome you to our Next Steps presentation today, and also just congratulate you all on your admission to the University of Cincinnati for the fall 2021 semester. We can't wait to welcome you to campus this fall. So today for our agenda, we're going to be going through confirming your admission if you haven't done that already, accessing your Bearcats Global account and requesting your I-20, working through that immigration process, accessing your Student Catalyst account, checking your UC email, applying for housing, applying for orientation, and then finally planning your arrival to campus. And we will have time throughout the presentation for you to answer or ask questions in the chat. So my colleague Nick Paddock is here. Also, my colleague Hannah Gurman is here as well. So feel free to put any questions you have in the chat. And at the end of the presentation, we'll also hopefully have time to answer even more questions then. Oops. So if you have not done this already, the first step will be to confirm your admission to University of Cincinnati or accept your offer. You're going to do this by logging back into that admissions portal that you've been accessing throughout the application process and viewing your admissions letter. And then you'll be able to select the confirmation form and fill out those fields accepting your offer. If you've received any scholarship offers, you can also accept your scholarship offers at that time. And then the last step is to pay the $100 confirmation fee. But I'm going to be talking about a few other portals today and login information that's very important as you get ready to become a student at UC this fall. So the first portal that we'll talk about is the Bearcats Global portal, and this is your Bearcats Global account. This is where you'll handle all of your immigration concerns, but also it's going to guide you through a pre-arrival checklist that will have everything you need to receive your I-20 or DS 2019, to apply for housing, to plan your arrival to Cincinnati and more. So you should have received this login information actually after you were admitted. So you wouldn't have had to have confirmed to receive this login. You actually receive it about a day or two after you have been admitted to UC, and it comes from this email account that's shown on the screen. So feel free, if you haven't been able to find this login, you can search by this email account. To access the portal, you're going to go to this website, www.ibearcatsglobal.uc.edu. And then it's really important, you're going to have two options. You're going to have a full services option and a limited services option. Please select the limited services. That's very important because this is for admitted students. The full services will be what you will access later after you've enrolled with UC, and you'll be using this through your time at UC. So for now, please select limited service. You're going to enter your UC ID number, your date of birth, and your PIN that was provided in this email from UC International Services. Your UC ID number is that M number. It starts with the letter M. And then once you've logged in, this is what you're going to see. So you'll have 9 tabs. You're only going to be able to go in order. So you must start with tab number 1. And then after you've completed each tab, it'll let you go to the next. So the first step will be to select that you have confirmed your admission to UC. So go ahead and do that, and then it'll let you work through the rest of the tabs. The second tab is we're going to talk about in more detail, and this would be where you'll be requesting your UC I-20 or DS 2019. Most of you will be getting a UC I-20 to apply for the student visa, the F1 student visa. And this is that immigration document from the University of Cincinnati. But you'll also be able to plan your arrival, review and register for required events. You'll be uploading your passport and then eventually your visa information, and then all of your mandatory personal information. And then steps 7 through 9, 7, 8, and 9 will be something that you'll complete typically after you've arrived to Cincinnati. And that will be uploading your arrival record, which is your I-94. Completing your mandatory health screening will give you information about where to go to do that. And then also following our resources and regulations for F1 students and making sure that you've attended our immigration presentation from UC International. So We get a lot of questions about tab number 2 because it's, of course, very important to get your I-20 as soon as you can so that you can work through scheduling your visa interview. So this first step will be to upload your financial documents. So these will be your sources of financial support for new incoming students. It'll also be your affidavit of support if you have like a family member that's supporting you. So typically it's bank statements and then the affidavit of support. You also can upload a copy of your scholarship email here. So you can go ahead and print that to a PDF and upload that as well. And then once you've done this and you have everything you need in our system, we will be able to issue this I-20 immigration document for you, and it will be sent digitally. So it's very important just to note that during the pandemic, we have been able to send the I-20 documents digitally. That is allowed by SEVP, by Immigration Services. So go ahead and receive that by email, and then you can print it in color, and you can go ahead and then pay your SEVIS fee, the fee that you pay to then be able to go ahead and schedule your F1 visa interview. And just to review, these are some of our first year costs. So I think you've already probably seen this through your work with your admissions counselor, but overall it would be $46,290 that would need to be presented through the bank statements, affidavits of support in order to receive the I-20. Of course, you would take off or deduct any scholarship from this total amount. And if you have any questions about this process, in addition to your admissions counselor that you will continue to work with, if you have any questions, please feel free, don't hesitate to reach out to our International Services Office. And this is their email address. It's international.students@uc.edu, or you can call them by phone if you prefer. They will be able to help you, but also if you have any access issues with getting into Bearcats Global, or you've lost that email, then feel free to send them an email and they can send that to you again. Okay, the second portal that we're going to talk about today is actually your UC student portal. It's the Catalyst portal. And so this is where you're going to be able to do everything from, in some cases, checking a financial report, but also viewing your class schedule, registering for classes. And so it's a very important portal to be able to set up. But in order to set it up, you have to have confirmed your admission or accepted your offer to UC. So it's a little different than Bearcats Global, where you can access it once you've been admitted. This one you need to have confirmed. So a few days after you've confirmed, you'll receive an email from University of Cincinnati with your default login information. This will include your student ID number that will be part of your email account. It'll typically be some combination of your last name, first name, and then your temporary password, which typically will be capital U, lowercase c, exclamation, and then it's month, day, day, and then the 4-digit year. So this will all be received by email, but if you have any issues getting logged in, definitely feel free to contact our IT support, and we have the information listed here, along with the link to submit a guest ticket through online, because we know a lot of our students cannot call, so you can either email or submit the guest ticket. Another important thing to note is when you do set up your login information, please do put an alternate email. That will allow you to reset your password and not get logged out of your account. So it is important to not skip over that field and put in like an alternate personal email address as well. And then setting up your UC email will be one of the last steps that we would say is very important at this point to get you set up to be successful at UC. So you will receive instructions about 2 to 3 days after you've confirmed your admission on how to set up your email account as well. And it will be the same login information that you use for Catalyst. So this will be like your central login, and you're going to use it for pretty much all of UC's systems. So you don't have to remember a bunch of different logins going forward after you've started with UC, for the most part. So, and this will be really important to actually start checking your UC email now and over the summer. You don't want to wait until you've arrived to campus, because our UC housing office, our orientation office, and our UC International Services office will all send you emails to your UC email account. And you're going to go to www.mail.uc.edu to check this account. All right, so there's 2 other important applications to fill out in addition to your admissions application. So that would be our housing application and applying for orientation. So if you've not done so already, we highly encourage you to go ahead and confirm your admission. And then a few days after that, you'll be able to set up your Catalyst, your student login, and then you can go ahead and apply for housing through our housing website. The application already opened on March 1st, and the priority deadline is May 5th, I believe. Sorry, I'm not seeing that. Let me move this. May 5th, yes. So it is, it's not a hard deadline, but there's going to be, sometimes we have a wait list after May 5th. So to be able to be guaranteed a slot in our on-campus housing, it is really important that you fill out the application by or before May 5th. You're going to go ahead, you're going to pay the $75 fee, which is a non-refundable application fee for housing. And then after you've applied, you actually are able to search for other student profiles. You set up your own student profile to find roommates. Housing is actually a two-step process. The first step is to apply, and then you're actually going to be doing room selection later on. So you will not select your room right away, but once you've applied, we'll have that information in the system of the week that you applied, and then in order of when the students have applied is when they'll be able to select their rooms starting in June. So for example, if you applied the week of March 1st and it goes by week, then typically the first week of June will be when you'll be able to select your room, give or take a little bit. So it is really important to try to apply sooner rather than later for housing. And then the housing and dining costs do vary by residence hall, but this is approximately the average for both the fall and the spring semester. So it's about $7,500 per semester that would be added onto your bill for your housing and your meal plan. And then this last step is the orientation registration or application. So this actually, once you've confirmed your admission, you're actually going to use that same login that you use for your admissions portal, where you've checked your status and everything throughout the application process. You're going to be able to go ahead and use that same login to apply for orientation right away. So you don't have to wait to set up your Catalyst student information. So go ahead and do that. This is very important to be able to register for classes and to be pre-registered. You must be have attended orientation before you can meet with your academic advisor and schedule these classes. And during orientation, you're going to meet also with your student orientation leader. You're going to learn more about how to use our different systems that you see, including Canopy accounts and Catalyst, and just learn how to be a successful student here and all the resources we have available across campus. And then the last step will be to plan your arrival. So all new F1 and J1 students who will be attending UC for the first time are provided with free transportation from the airport to campus on the airport executive shuttle. But you must sign up through the Bearcats Global portal to request this service. Typically, we ask that you give us at least a couple weeks. So go ahead and do that. And then you can also learn about transferring your funds to the US to pay for tuition, et cetera. And then the immigration check-in is also very important. So once you've arrived, in addition to doing those tabs 7 through 9 in the Bearcats Global checklist, you also will be attending, it may be virtual, we're not sure at this point, but you'll be attending this immigration review with our International Services Office and registering for any other events that are required through Bearcats Global ahead of time. You must arrive in Cincinnati in time to complete this process and before classes have begun. We have a lot of students that want to enter the US early, and you can actually enter the US up to 30 days before the start date on your I-20. However, we do recommend first that you confirm that you have a housing assignment and that you've confirmed with housing, UC Housing, when you will be able to move in. Because it can get quite expensive to have a hotel for a couple weeks. So just make sure you've done that before you book your flight to Cincinnati. And now's the time for questions. I hope that I didn't go too fast, but I think that was a lot of good information to get you started. You might have already done a lot of these steps, but we're here to answer any specific questions you have about this process. Here's some great resources for you. We have our International Admissions Office, International Services, Orientation, Housing. Then one stop would be Catalyst-related questions, registration, payment plans, how to pay your bill, et cetera. So you can ask those of one stop. And then continue to work with your admissions counselor that you've been working with through the application process, and they can help get you connected with the correct office as well. So I'm going to go ahead and check the questions and then work with Nick Paddock, and he can kind of let me know if there's any questions we haven't answered already in the chat.
Hey, Megan, I've got a couple questions for you from students.
Sure.
One student asked, documents that are required to receive the I-20, those financial statements are only needed to show they have the funds for the first year only, or for the entire degree, for all 4 years?
Right. So when you're when you're submitting those bank statements and the affidavit of support, the bank statement itself will show the funds for just the first year. And it's assumed that that money will be available for future years, because obviously, you know, your family is continuing to work and earn the money that they would have available to pay for schooling. So it could be when you go to the, when you schedule your visa interview, you'll go ahead and read through the website for your particular consular office or embassy in your city where you'll be going. And they'll have a list of documents that they might suggest that you bring with you. So it could be that you might be bringing pay stubs or tax information to the visa interview, but for the I-20 itself, we're really just requiring that first year first year amount on the bank statements.
Megan, there was a question about financial documents. They were interested to know more about what type of financial documents are needed to submit and receive the I-20.
So I am going to probably defer to sending any specific questions to international.students@uc.edu, but typically it would be bank statements. There are some other documents that we might be able to accept for review. It gets a little bit tricky if it's money that's tied up like in land already or in like something that you own. So it is like these liquid assets. So it'd be money that's available to be able to spend today to be able to pay for your tuition. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and there was a question about fees. Are the fees the same for students in an engineering program versus a business program? And
right.
they're asking in relation to what the cost is.
Yeah, so the fees, I mean, I think they're all pretty similar. Actually, I might defer to Nick for this question as well, because since we both work in the admissions office and are kind of updating the website with the fees. But I think overall, for undergrads are similar. They're going to be different for grad. So it may be you have like an extra smaller like lab fee or something here or there, but fees are typically in the hundreds of dollars, and there's not going to be a big gap between one major to another, as far as I understand. Would you agree with that, Nick?
Yeah, fees in general are going to vary depending on your degree program, because, for example, in engineering, you might be paying lab fees. Mm-hmm. If you're a business student, you don't have a lab fee, right? Because you're not using labs. But in general, mm-hmm. it's going to be similar throughout. So that breakdown of the costs does cover that amount for each program. I don't know, Megan, if you want to go back to that slide.
Yeah, for sure. So we've kind of taken that into account when we gave you those overall estimated fees. Sorry, my slides are going a little slow. So yeah, that would be factored in to the tuition and fees up here, this $28,972.
Megan, there's a question about fees. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
There's a question about expenses. Does this number include personal expenses? So for students to be able to go get Starbucks coffee and other personal items.
Right. So I think we actually factor that. Some universities will break it out like as a miscellaneous line for the expenses, but I believe that's factored into we factor it into the living expenses. And that would be because we do have some residence halls, for example, that are closer to $11,000 for fall and spring semester. So we are factoring in, you know, a couple $1,000s here or there that are for these miscellaneous expenses. And, you know, that's going to change over your time with UC. It's going to cost different to live on campus for the first year, where all of our first year students are living on campus, to living off campus after that, where a lot of our students do live off campus and have roommates. So it can vary, but we do factor that into the living expenses line of the estimated expenses.
And there is a question about campus costs. So the cost of Uptown main campus is going to be higher than UC Blue Ash Regional Campus and UC Claremont College Regional Campus.
Yes, for the tuition and fees, it's going to be higher, but be careful because if you received a scholarship, typically your scholarship will also be higher for the main campus. So if you decide you would like to switch to one of our regional campuses, I would work with your admissions counselor first and kind of get an estimation of how that would change your scholarship as well.
Megan, are students required to live on campus?
Yes, for the first year. So some universities require longer than that, but for UC, it's that first year you're required to live on campus. We do occasionally have students that will have like a family member in the area or a sibling, and you can work with housing on that for an exemption. But typically, if you don't have any family or siblings in the area, then you would be living in the traditional residence halls that first year, because we really do feel that's very important for any student to get that support that first year. You have 24-hour access to your residence assistants, you have a hall director, and so they're really there to support you. You also get to meet a lot of other students. And so it's a really great transition from moving away from your family to being in school, and before you would then potentially be going and getting an apartment on your own after the first year. So it is, yeah, it's a good experience as well.
Now we have a question about booking a flight. The student has asked, should I book my flight ticket or wait for my visa approval?
Yeah, so definitely wait for your visa approval and also work with housing too, to make sure that you have a housing assignment, that you know when you're going to move in, because you really want to make sure you have everything ready and kind of checked off of, make sure you have your visa, make sure you know where you're going to live before you book that ticket. Because it can be pretty expensive to change the flights. Now, I mean, if you have some sort of travel insurance that I don't know about and you feel like it would be easy to reschedule, then that's your decision. But that would be my recommendation, or our recommendation.
We have a question about orientation, and it's about using Canvas, the Canvas module. So the student they're required to complete Canvas modules as part of their orientation, but
Yes.
the student is sharing that they're unable to log in and take that step. You familiar with that?
I would email orientation@uc.edu if you were having any issues getting access to modules. So orientation is a combination of completing like an orientation course online, but also I believe some synchronous meetings as well, like with your student orientation leader, and then you be scheduling to meet with your advisor either as a group or individually. So any questions you have about that process and the login information, I would recommend that you contact orientation directly.
And I just put their email address in the chat.
Perfect.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Nick.
Students are asking about vaccination and the COVID-19 protocols. Are they required to be vaccinated before they come to the United States? That's the first question.
Currently, yeah. As far as I know, currently there is no requirement to have the vaccination. However, it could be that we have some testing protocols before you would be moving into campus. So I would actually, instead of getting into too many specifics, I would definitely refer students to our COVID information page. We are a big university. We have a medical campus. We have UC Health. So we are on top of everything related to COVID-19 and following all of the highest safety protocols. And we're also up to date with any new information. So all of that will be posted onto those in like real-time updates, because we know with COVID-19 that there's always updates, right? So I would refer you directly to the site.
And Megan, you just said go to the website for more information, but a student is asking if students will be able to get vaccinated here on campus.
So right now in Ohio, the vaccinations have opened up to 16 and up. So as far as I know, students fall in that group, like as long as they're at least 16 or older, which most students are. So you should be able to sign up for a vaccination, especially by the time you would arrive. If you want more specific details, I think we'll probably have more information as we go, because this eligibility in Ohio just changed to 16 and up on the 29th, like Monday this week. So it is relatively new. So just keep in touch with us, keep in touch with your admissions counselor. And that's what we're here for, to kind of connect you with the right offices. So just send us an email, or you can email international.students@uc.edu, our international services office, and they can assist with those questions too.
Thank you, Megan. We have a question about our activities on campus. A student is interested to know if we have any festivals or student campus parties.
We do. We have so many. Right now, most of them are virtual, of course, but I'm hoping that we're hoping they can kind of transition back into some hybrid or smaller events, and then eventually back to hopefully normal in the future. So typically, like Holy, the festival was just this week. And so typically we would have a big celebration out on, and I think you've probably seen some pictures on our website or in brochures with throwing the paint, being out on the lawn. And so that has always been a really fun event that we have two big Indian student associations, one actually students and one for undergrad. So we have a really large population of students from India. And so some of those festivals are very big, and we have a lot of domestic students and faculty and staff, and everyone from campus, the community comes and participates. So we also have like our Lunar New Year's celebrations. We have a lot of different like food events with foods from different countries. We also have a World Fest event that's hosted by our Ethnic Programs and Services office that was virtual this year, but typically would be in person. That would have a show, like talent show component, a food component, and a lot of different like learning activities throughout the week as well. And we have over 400, well, actually more than that, like over 500 student organizations across campus. So any interest that you have, you can typically find a club or student organization to join and meet other students that have those interests. And if you don't find it, you can form it as well. So we have student government, a lot of those traditional like Model UN. So anyone who'd like to participate here, there's going to be a lot of events tied to those student organizations as well. So
thank you, Megan. We have a question about, yeah, campus is always busy. We have a question about confirming versus receiving the I-20. So do I have to accept and confirm my admission to request the I-20?
That's a good question. So technically, it will, that tab number 1 will, if you have confirmed your admission. It's kind of like an intent to confirm. If you haven't officially taken that step and paid the $100 fee yet, but you're intending to, say you've pared it down to like maybe we're in your top 3 schools and you want to work on getting that I-20 document, go ahead and click that box and it'll let you go to the step number 2 where you can upload your finances. So technically you can get an I-20 just as an admitted student. Of course, we would recommend that before you go and schedule your visa interview, that you make sure you've decided and that you've confirmed with the school that you intend to enroll in, so that you can take the I-20 for that. Like you can pay the confirmation fee for that I-20 confirmation fee. So you can pay the CVIS fee for that I-20 document and then schedule the visa interview that for that particular, intending to enroll with that particular school. And so that would be when you'd really need to make that final decision.
Thank you, Megan. We have a quick question about co-op. Students are, of course, interested in cooperative education. That's why many are coming to the University of Cincinnati. A student is curious to know if the opportunities are still there, or has COVID really impacted and shut down our co-op opportunities for students?
No, actually not at all. And we've had some papers even in our articles in our local paper that have run over the course of the last year, kind of praising University of Cincinnati for the way we've been innovative with our co-op program during the pandemic. So we did have first of all, we've been doing co-op since 1906. So we have many partnerships that have been already formed with companies and organizations that have been ongoing for years and years. Some of those companies have moved to remote over this time frame, and they've allowed their co-op students to also perform their duties like as a co-op student remotely as well. We have other students that participate in what we call our EAT program, which is basically they work with their co-op advisor and maybe with a faculty advisor for their particular major to come up with certain projects or research opportunities that they will be doing remotely during the semester, and they will still be getting their co-op credit for those opportunities. And they can actually do that program from overseas. So we've had some students, like I have a student I was working with who's back in Dubai, and she's been doing that during her time back in Dubai. We have other students that are continuing to work remotely with a company that they had already been co-oping with before. So we've definitely had opportunities still available for our students.
Megan, okay, we have a question about the CVIS fee. A student has asked, if I decide to enroll at UC and have paid the CVIS fee, but was rejected the visa, what would I be required to do?
So if you paid the CVIS fee and your visa and you didn't pass through that first visa interview, you can schedule to interview for the visa again with the allotted time frame. You would want to email our international services office, email that international.students@uc.edu email account to like give them an update. And then they will be able to guide you through those next steps in terms of if you can still reapply My-20, if they need to defer the start date for a future semester, if like we're at the point where classes are starting soon. But there are definitely options to not have to pay the CVIS fee again, right, like automatically. Typically you don't, well, I don't want to say never, but like there are definitely opportunities usually where you can still have the same CVIS record, CVIS fee for your next interview.
Students have asked if they're able to work their first year on campus.
You are able to work your first year on campus up to 20 hours a week. And we do have some positions across campus that students apply for. And we have a lot of students that actually start working on campus within maybe the first semester or two. I think housing is a really popular one. Like there's desk assistants. There's also tutors within our learning commons. So if you do really well in a subject your first semester, then maybe the next semester you could be a tutor for that particular subject. And there's some other opportunities. So they are still competitive. You'll still apply and you'll still interview for those positions, but you can apply right away for those positions on campus.
Thank you, Megan. I've got a question about, sorry, I'm scrolling back up. The recommended date for arrival. So students are curious to know, they have that window, that 30-day window, but what is recommended?
Right, that is a good question. So Nick, I might defer to you for that particular day if you've
the start of the first year of classes, I believe, is August 28th this year. And typically move-in is about 1 week prior to that.
Yeah, it looks like maybe the 20th, I think maybe a little later, but maybe the 23rd, I believe, is that full week of classes. I mean, I would say that typically I would say students typically are arriving within the week before classes start. So in the past, it could be like a full week, but at this point with COVID, I would say to keep in touch with us, keep in touch with your admissions counselor and with our international services office, because at this point, I don't know if it's beneficial to arrive too early. Like I think it's better, like we want you to be here for all the required events. We have a lot of really fun welcome events too that we want you to be able to participate in. But we just want to make sure you're not here too early before all of the other like domestic students are arriving to campus. So it's kind of balancing that timeline. So keep in touch with us and we should have updates. We'll be sending you updates. You'll probably get an update by email as well. If not, just continue to work with your admissions counselor and with our international services office as well.
Mm-hmm. And to work on campus, are students required to have a social security number?
So to apply, no, you do not have to have a social security number. Typically, once you've received an offer in the past, it would be that then you would go and you would file for a social security number that would be specifically tied to having this approval to work on campus, but it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be tied to like any kind of citizenship or residency or anything like that. So that would be in the past, but you don't have to have one to apply, no.
Thank you, Megan.
Sure.
Everyone, the recording of this event will be on our YouTube account at the
Okay.
UC International YouTube page. And there's a great question about parents. If parents decide to visit Cincinnati, Ohio to see their student, is there any help provided for them to stay?
So, well, first, if you're looking to get like your visitor visa, there used to be in the Bearcats Global portal, and I think it might be under the full services menu after students enrolled, but I think you can still go in and request this during the pre-arrival as well if you have a parent that's flying with. There should be a request where if you need a letter for the visa interview to explain why you're visiting. I think most students are requesting this more like when they're graduating for families to come and visit, but you can work with our international services on that. We also have our parent and I forget what that office is called specifically, but we have a family office on campus that specifically is there to support parents and families. So we can get you connected with them as well for all of the resources they have available. Like we have specific hotels in the area that might have like a discounted rate or work more often with UC and that are within walking distance of campus. So go ahead and if you have a question, let your admissions counselor know. We can kind of connect you with the parent and family programs office as well and those resources. Do you have anything to add to that, Nick?
No, I think you covered it well.
Okay, thanks.
We do have a great question about the students' well-being when they arrive to Cincinnati, Ohio. So the question is, what are some of the help given to international students to help them settle in at the University of Cincinnati? As in,
For sure.
if they are
Yeah.
homesick or need any medical attention after they arrive, do we have support in place for students?
Yeah, these are such great questions. Thanks for asking these. So first of all, like I mentioned before, we have a lot of ways to get involved on campus. So we have our PALS group, which is our international PALS or peers and leaders, I believe it is. And so basically those are domestic and international students. And they have actually help desk hours where you can go and meet with them. It used to be in person and now I think it might have moved virtual for now, every week. So we always encourage students, like if you're struggling to know where to start, like that might be a good place to start because they can kind of give you resources, smaller group. They're already coming into that wanting to help you find resources across campus. You'll get information during your orientation about different supports across campus. You're going to get more information during our immigration and international services presentation as well. We have this excellent office called CAPS, which is like our counseling services office. They're a little bit off campus, but they're just walking distance right there. And they actually have an international student group meets on a regular basis. So if you want to meet other students through that group, you can. They also have counselors like you can meet with individually and you can meet with them virtually right now. And I would think that will continue into the future as an option as well. So we have a lot of supports there. I would say your academic advisor is a good support too. So if you have questions, you can go to them. You can go to your professors. A lot of the professors are supportive and know about the resources across campus. And then always email international.students@uc.edu. If you have a question, and the advisor will always be there checking that email account every day to point you in the right direction. So because it's completely normal to get here and to feel homesick. Like you'll be excited in the beginning, but then sometimes that excitement, you go through a period where there's this realization of like, oh, I'm pretty far away from home. And, so I think being able to work through that rather than kind of close up and not want to work through it, I think is good. So kind of having those resources on hand, jotting down maybe some notes about them during your orientation will be helpful as well. I hope
Thanks,
that
Megan.
do you have anything to add, Nick, to that?
No, we have a quick question on the note of healthcare. Are students required to purchase the UC healthcare, or can they purchase their own external health?
Yeah, so we do have a required health insurance policy for international students and domestic students to purchase health insurance. So it is to make sure that you're covered, and it is required. So typically it will not be waived for students unless they're on like a parent plan that with parents that are already in the US working for a company in the US, something along those lines. We don't accept typically like travel insurance plans. So just make sure you factor those expenses in, which are also on this slide that we still have up here, and they're billed per semester. So that amount is divided in half and added to your bill for fall and for spring, but it covers you year round. Our University Health Services office is right on campus, so you can walk there. We have I think 4 or 5 different hospitals within a few mile radius of campus. So it's also a really good place to be in terms of healthcare. We have excellent healthcare around this area to that with your health insurance. So it is really important to maintain your health insurance plan with us, required automatically.
And if the student needs to receive medical attention at the hospital, will that healthcare cover everything, or will the student be expected to pay healthcare costs for their surgery or something that may happen?
Well, that, so in the US, I would say most of us have to pay some portion of our surgery costs and whatnot. So what you can do is you can definitely work with the health insurance office. We actually have a health insurance office on our campus, and that's all they do is work with students that have health insurance with us and answer questions. So we can definitely put you in contact with them if you have any specific questions about different procedures and how they're covered, and they can give you kind of the language of your plan and everything as well. We typically say, if it's an emergency, go to the emergency room. If it's not an emergency, it's probably better to go to our health center on campus, or a doctor's office. But that'll be covered as well during your orientation with our international service as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Megan. Someone had asked, what type of clothing should they bring? Should they bring their entire closet from home? Or should they purchase some of it here? What's, that's a great question about what to wear.
Clothes. Yeah, I mean, if you're arriving in the fall, I don't know if you necessarily have to pack a winter jacket at that point. You could buy one after you get here if it's going to save you some space in your suitcase. If you're arriving in January, on the other hand, then I would say definitely bring your winter jacket. So, but we have all 4 seasons in Cincinnati. So when you arrive in August, it'll still be very warm outside, and hot and humid. So you won't need a jacket. It'll be short sleeves if you want to wear them, or long sleeve, light, blouse types, anything light you can bring for that period of time. And then it'll start getting cold, maybe in October-ish, October. So, so you do have time to be able to purchase heavier clothing if you're arriving in August. You can definitely pack for your dorm room. The same thing is true for your bedding. You might not need to pack a full comforter, but it might be helpful to buy those extra long sheets and to pack those maybe in your suitcase, just so you have something to be able to make your bed right when you get there. But bigger, bulkier items, you can get those here. We have everything that you need. A lot of it within walking distance of campus, but we also have shuttles on the weekends that will run to different locations as well if you need maybe to get a bigger item. And then of course online. I mean, you can order, we have an Amazon delivery site where you can basically have it delivered to a locker, and then you can just walk and pick it up. So we have a lot of students that order stuff online as well.
Thank you, Megan. Well, sure. We're just a minute over our time for this event, so we will have to conclude. So Megan, I'll mute myself here and you could wrap it up. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you again for attending, and congratulations again on your admissions to UC. Just continue to work with your admissions counselor that you've been in contact with throughout, and then definitely take down these helpful email addresses that we have shown on the screen. Continue to check your personal email that was tied to your application. And then once you've set up your UC email, start to check that every day as well. And we can't wait to welcome you to campus this fall. Thank you for attending. Bye.